I came home early, and what I saw the cleaner doing left me heartbroken. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun was still high in the sky, casting long shadows across my living room. My heart was light, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beyond my door. As I turned the key, I could hear the soft hum of the vacuum cleaner, the noise oddly reassuring, like a lullaby of normalcy. But then I stepped inside and the world shattered. There she was, my cleaner, but it wasn't the routine dusting I expected. She knelt on the floor, her hands trembling as she clutched something dark and crinkled in her fingers. A photo. My breath hitched. The moment felt surreal, like watching a film play out but without any sound. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs. As I moved closer, the muscles in my chest tightened. I caught a glimpse. It was me. Only it wasn't just any picture, it was the one from my wedding day. But there was a tear creeping through the edge, jagged and raw, just like the panic building inside me. Her eyes were wide with something, a mixture of shock and sadness. I couldn't read it. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken secrets. The room spun slightly. I thought I knew her. I thought we were just strangers in the shared space of cleaning and tidying. Yet, here she sat, clutching the remnants of my past like a ghost. That I cleared my throat, trying to shatter this unbearable silence. But words failed me. My mouth opened, but no sound escaped. Only a muffled gasp as I took in the intensity of the moment. What was this? Why was she holding my memories like a lifeline? Her hands quivered as she placed the photo back down, and I could see traces of tears in her eyes. A shiver ran down my spine. Had I just stumbled upon a mystery buried in my own house? Time seemed to freeze. I could hear the faint tick-tock of the clock on the wall, each beat mocking my confusion. What was going on? Who was she really? Behind her, the open window swayed slightly, and outside, the world continued, oblivious to the unraveling of my heart. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment hung in the air like a fragile thread, waiting for something, anything to pull at it and send it spiraling into chaos. I still stood there, paralyzed by the weight of what I had just witnessed. My cleaner, whose name I didn't even know, was not just a figure sweeping through my mundane existence. She was a keeper of secrets, a holder of memories that I thought belonged to me alone. Why do you have that? I finally managed to choke out, each word feeling like shards of glass scraping my throat. Her gaze flickered to me, vulnerability radiating from her. I found it under the couch, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean to pry, but it was just there. For a moment, I was taken aback. In all the years I had lived in this house, I had never bothered to clean beneath the furniture, nor had I ever imagined my life's fragments could be discarded so carelessly. There was something unsettling about the idea of that photograph sitting on the floor, gathering dust, while I rushed through life without taking stock of the memories hidden in the corners. Do you know who this is? I asked, stepping closer, forced to confront the tangible proof of a happier time, one that felt like a distant galaxy away now. Her eyes softened, and I could see her sharing in my pain, even if it was just for a moment. I've seen you, with someone, a woman, I believe. You looked so happy. The words tumbled out, laden with empathy and regret. I didn't know. I'm sorry if this hurts you. Every syllable struck me harder than I anticipated. I couldn't afford any more heartbreak, yet here it was, wrapped in her kindness. It was a lifetime ago, I whispered, turning my gaze toward the window. Outside, the leaves danced in the wind, vibrant and full of life, contrasting sharply with the heaviness settling in my chest. "I'm sorry," I said again, this time to myself. The memories felt like shadows, flickering in my mind, laughter that echoed faintly, moments that sparkled and then darkened abruptly. I felt trapped in a realm of sorrow, grateful for this stranger's compassion but also resentful that my pain had spilled into her life. "I didn't mean to disturb you," she said softly, her voice a spring breeze in the smothering heat of the moment. "I'll leave." "No." The single word escaped before I could think. I was astonished at my own response. "Please stay. I think I need to talk." Her brow arched slightly, a sign of surprise, perhaps disbelief. I could hardly blame her. After all, we were two souls who existed in silos of duty and responsibility. Yet, somehow, the fabric of fate had entwined our paths in the most unsettling way possible. As she settled back onto the floor, I found myself sitting across from her, an ocean of silence stretching between us, punctuated only by the rustling leaves. My mind raced with questions I both yearned to ask and feared would open wounds too deep for healing. "What's your story?" I finally dared to inquire. She hesitated, and the silence again wrapped around us like a thick fog. "I came here hoping to save some money, you know." I lost someone too," she admitted, her voice unsteady. "Not in the same way you did, but I used to have a family. Things just fell apart." The authenticity in her confession struck a chord within me. For every tale of tranquility I had imagined, there was a reality brimming with loss on both sides. "What happened?" I inquired softly. "Life," she said, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. "We all carry burdens. I guess it just gets too heavy sometimes, and we have to let go of people, of dreams." A ripple of understanding flowed between us, two strangers who had stumbled into each other's grief, yet now shared an opaque hope that had bloomed unexpectedly in the ashes. My heart clenched at the empathy radiating from her, a stark contrast to the bitterness I had been growing accustomed to. "Would you like some tea?" I found myself asking, intuition nudging me toward kindness. "I think we both could use a warm cup right now." A flicker of surprise danced across her features, and she offered a tentative smile. "I'd like that." Moments later, we sat at the small kitchen table, steam rising from our cups like unwept emotions finding their way back into the world. As we sipped the warm, soothing liquid, the conversation shifted from profound loss to trivial stories of our lives, sharing a laugh over an awkward incident involving a misplaced vacuum cleaner, a moment that connected us through simple humanity. Just when the weight of the day began to feel lighter, the doorbell rang. Startled, I exchanged a glance with her. Who could that be? My intuition screamed for caution, but as I approached the door, a rush of dread washed over me. With a deep breath, I opened it, and before me stood an apparition from my past. "You shouldn't have left all the memories behind, you know," the figure said, a familiar voice slicing through the fragile moment we had just built. The face on the other side felt both like home and an intruder, awakening ghosts I thought were buried. Heart racing, I looked back at the cleaner, who sat frozen at the kitchen table, her expression a mirror of disbelief. Would this moment shatter everything we shared, or could it open a new path through the darkness? With a dull ache in my chest, I realized that sometimes, the past finds a way to reclaim what it believes is lost. The door cracked open further, revealing the unmistakable presence of Sarah, someone I had long believed to be nothing more than a whisper of my past. Time still clung to her like a well-loved coat, the years I spent with her flitting through my memory like autumn leaves caught in a gust. "You shouldn't have left all the memories behind, you know," she repeated, her eyes scanning the space between us. That familiar mixture of love and pain surged within me. Sarah had once been the sun, illuminating every corner of my world, but over time, those rays had dimmed, caught in the grasp of unresolved hurt. I stood there, caught between longing and the desperate need to shield this fragile connection I had forged with the cleaner, who bore witness to this unraveled thread of my life. What are you doing here?" I managed, my voice trembling in the stillness. I glanced back at the cleaner, whose eyes darted from me to Sarah and back again, confusion etched in her brow. I came to see if you were okay, Sarah replied softly, stepping closer, her voice threaded with past familiarity. They said you've been struggling. I thought I could struggling. The word burst from me like a dam breaking. The anger was raw, a pent-up reflection of years filled with unsaid words and unhealed wounds. You left, remember? You left me to figure it all out on my own. Sarah's expression faltered, as though my words struck deeper than intended. I know, she whispered. I thought it was for the best for both of us. Please, just let me explain. No. I shot back, the word resonating through the quiet of the house. You don't get to just waltz back into my life and demand explanations when you discarded our dreams like so much trash. The cleaner shifted uncomfortably in her chair, a silent witness to my spiraling emotions. I had dragged her into the fallout of my heartbreak, and now I could feel the weight of shared sadness thickening the air. I turned to her, desperate for reassurance but found only empathy reflecting back at me, but Sarah wasn't done. I made mistakes. I see that now. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you until I was gone. I was scared, and I thought distance would help us both heal, she confessed, her voice cracking. But seeing me today. You don't get to pick and choose when to return. You can't just show up and expect everything to be perfect. I felt my heart drum in my chest, its frantic rhythm overwhelming the remnants of my composure, and just like that, our reunion stumbled into the depths of bitterness. Whatever unity had bloomed moments earlier had now shattered, leaving us to navigate the shards. It wasn't just my voice that betrayed me, my memories of her, once filled with laughter and light, flared with anger and loss. The tears I'd held at bay were now threatening to spill out, an emotional flood I feared would drown me. I should go, the cleaner uttered quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, fraught with uncertainty. The space felt stifled as I grappled with the conflicting emotions she had stirred. No. Stay. My heart seemed to rebuke my words as I turned toward the cleaner, craving her warmth and understanding amidst the chaos. Please. A moment passed, thick with unspoken words, before she hesitantly nodded. I'll stay. As I turned back to Sarah, something shifted in the air, a fragile tension crackling between us. You can't just come back pretending everything will be fine, I said, my voice now steadier, a protective barrier forming. You don't know me anymore. Her eyes widened, glimmering with a sadness that mirrored my own. If I didn't know you, why would I still feel this way? What way? I challenged, desperation lacing my words. After everything? You think feelings can just erase the years of hurt? Sarah reached for me, a tentative peace in her gesture. I want to try, I do, and what about the cleaner? I interjected, my point lingering in the air like the unresolved tension. What do you think this could mean for her too? The cleaner's face was a tapestry of emotions, pain, confusion, a flicker of hope layered over a profound sadness. It was in that moment I felt the weight of our interconnected stories, how entwined they had become in this chaotic dance of hurt and healing. I'm not here to compete, I just want to understand, Sarah murmured, her eyes shifting from me to the cleaner. I don't want to hurt anyone else. I didn't expect, but before she could finish, a sudden thumping noise erupted outside the door, a loud sound that rattled through the air like an echo of chaos, sending each of us jumping backward. My heart surged as utter dread washed over me. What was that? The cleaner's voice trembled, nails biting into the wooden table. I exchanged a glance with Sarah just before the door swung open completely, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness, a whirlwind of unrest and urgency ready to infiltrate our moment. Through the torrent of uncertainty, I braced myself. Whatever this new presence brought with it, I knew it would shatter whatever tender beginnings I had begun to weave back together. The shadowy figure at the door stepped into the dim light, appearing almost otherworldly against the backdrop of our fragile reconciliation. My breath caught in my throat as recognition struck like lightning. James, my brother, stood before us, panic written all over his face. He had barged into my life like an uninvited storm, the kind that twisted paths and sent people fleeing for cover. Sarah. He breathed her name with a mix of disbelief and relief, as though he were a man lost at sea suddenly finding land. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken histories and unresolved hurt. It felt like a powder keg ready to ignite. "What are you doing here?" I blurted, my composure slipping into uncertainty. This was a homecoming steeped in the kind of emotions that gnawed at the edges of my already frayed sanity. I had just begun to confront the ghost of what should have been, and now, with just a glance, the arrival of another phantom threatened to send it all tumbling down. "Mom's not well," James replied, anxiety painted across his features like a shadow casting darkness onto the vibrant colors of this moment. "I thought you should know." His glance flicked to Sarah, his brow furrowing as though he recognized the ripples of our unresolved tensions. Both Sarah and the cleaner exchanged glances. I could almost hear the unvoiced questions swirling in the air. What had been a moment of intimacy had transformed into one of pure chaos. "Not well?" "What do you mean?" Panic coiled in my chest as dread unfurled its fingers around my heart. Years of unresolved family issues rumbled like distant thunderclouds. My mother had fought valiantly against her health issues, and now, the thought of her illness clawed at my insides. "I don't know all the details. Just enough to know that you should come home," James urged, each word pressed with urgency. "You know how she gets when things go wrong." "But Sar," I began, my voice trembling, torn between familial obligation and the yearning to delve into the complexities of my emotions towards Sarah and the cleaner, whose gaze held an unflinching depth of compassion amidst the storm unfolding around us. "I'll be okay," Sarah interjected, her voice a soothing balm that momentarily eased my chaos. "You need to go. Family comes first." "No," I replied, the word weighted with a blend of desperation and conflict. "We don't know how long she has left. What if she needs me?" "Then go. This moment feels irretrievable anyway," the cleaner said, her words puncturing the fabric of my apprehension. Her eyes held a depth of understanding that somehow tethered me amidst the swirling turmoil. I swallowed hard, torn between the multitudes of my heart. The unfinished conversations hung precariously overhead like a heavy storm cloud. I could sense how much this situation meant to her, to Sarah too, who still stood like a moon eclipsed by the sun of my family's urgent needs. James's presence loomed, fitting like an uncomfortable piece of a puzzle I had long thought lost. As I glanced between my past love and my brother, I felt as though I were navigating a tightrope suspended above a swirling chasm, the connection with Sarah on one side and the gravitating pull of my mother's need on the other. "I don't know what to do," I confessed, the weight of my indecision pulling me down. "Sometimes, the right choice hurts the most," Sarah whispered, taking a tentative step toward me. "But you have to prioritize what matters." Her voice was kind, but it felt as if she were offering me a wildflower blooming defiantly in the cracks of a broken sidewalk, a flicker of hope in a moment of despair. "I'll be right here when you get back," the cleaner added, her warmth radiating even as the distance between us seemed to expand painfully. Her kindness surprised me, a gentle thread woven into this chaotic tapestry. James's gaze shifted back and forth between Sarah and me, and I could see a silent understanding unfold in his eyes, the weight of the choices I was about to make rippling beyond our small group. "I can't," my voice trailed off, drowned in the currents of what-ifs and maybes. How could I choose, when so much stood before me? But moments later, the phone in my pocket buzzed urgently, electrifying the silence that had settled over the room. I glanced at it, the piercing light illuminating the darkness creeping across my chest. A text from my father flashed rapidly across the screen: "Your mother is getting worse. You need to come home now." A shiver raced down my spine, stirring something deep within, a primal response to the call of family, of blood. "I need to go," I finally said, the words slipping through the cracks of my resolve. With one last look at the two women who bore the weight of my heart's conflicts, I felt a flicker of something tender, something heartbreaking. I stepped back, preparing to retreat, the gentle tether of connection tugging hard at my mind and soul, but just as I crossed the threshold of departure, Sarah called out, "Wait." I turned, my heart racing with trepidation mixed with a yearning I could hardly decipher. "I know you have to go," she said, her voice strong yet quivering like a fragile song. But whatever happens, please remember this isn't over. We still have things to say. I nodded, emotion welling in my throat as I choked out, I'll come back. James placed a hand on my shoulder, a grounding presence amid the chaos. As we stepped out together, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving behind something precious, something beautiful, bound with heartbreak and hope. Yet as I walked away, cell phone clutched tightly in my hand, the nagging thought echoed in my mind, what if my mother's condition was a sign of something more, an unraveling that would lead to further revelations I had yet to confront? The door swung shut behind me, sealing off all that had been said, all that had been felt, as I plunged into uncertainty. A storm was brewing, and it felt as if everything I had hoped to mend was irrevocably torn apart, swirling in disarray. Would I gather the pieces back together, or would I remain trapped in a cycle of heartbreak yet again? As the wind whipped against the car windows, each gust pulled at my thoughts, sweeping them into a swirling tempest of confusion and fear. James drove in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air like fog obscuring my vision. Each mile pushed me further from Sarah and the cleaner, further from the tender moment we had shared. My mind replayed her words over and over, this isn't over. We still have things to say. Hey, James finally broke the stillness, his voice a soft murmur against the cacophony outside. I know it's a lot, coming back home after everything. I shook my head slightly, not ready to unpack that loaded statement. Instead, I stared out the window at the passing landscape, the trees turning from green to the desaturated hues of autumn, a metaphor for the shifting moments of life. I just wish I knew what to expect, I finally replied, my voice barely above a whisper. None of us can, not really. You know Mom. She's fighting like hell, but he trailed off, leaving the thought to hang unaddressed. The unspoken but settled in my stomach like a stone, the house loomed into view like a ghost from my past, the familiar facade draped in shadows that seemed to echo the history etched into its walls. Each step toward the front door felt like an irreversible plunge into murky waters. I remembered the laughter that once lived within this space, the light that used to pour through the windows, a stark contrast to the muted stillness that now enveloped it. Is she? I began, my voice catching again as the question spilled from my lips, is she really? James nodded, his features tightening with worry. She has moments of clarity, but most of the time, well, you'll see. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open, the creaking sound reverberating through the stillness like a warning. The air inside felt stale, weighed down by unfulfilled conversations and unfinished business. The faint scent of my mother's favorite lilac air freshener hung in the air, a bittersweet reminder of who she used to be. Mom. I called, the word escaping me as if it were a prayer, echoing through the hallways. The silence that followed felt suffocating. That I walked deeper into the house, my heart racing as I approached the living room. That's where I saw her, thin, frail, sitting in her favorite armchair, staring out the window as if waiting for something or someone. It took a moment for her eyes to focus, our gazes locking in a recognition that felt both blessed and painful. Sarah, she whispered hoarsely, too weak to utter my name, a ghost of a smile tugging at her lips. Mom, I replied, rushing to her side. Tears pooled in my eyes as I took her hand, feeling the delicate pulse of life beneath her fragile skin. I'm here. We were enveloped in a quiet fracture of time, two beings held together by the remnants of love and loss. You came back, she murmured, and for a moment, the shadows seemed to lift just enough for me to see her, to feel her warmth. I couldn't stay away, I said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my heart. Tell me how you've been. I was desperate for a glimpse into her world, to understand the battles she faced in the silence that separated us. As she began to recount fragmented stories, I tried to focus, but my mind kept returning to Sarah, the cleaner, and that moment of heartache I had left behind. The kindness of the cleaner haunted me, it curled around my thoughts like wisps of smoke, refusing to settle. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, disrupting the fragile atmosphere. I exchanged a glance with James. Was it too soon for visitors? The questioning look in his eyes was enough to send a shiver down my spine that I glanced toward the door as it creaked open again, trying to push back the wave of trepidation that washed over me. "Let me get that," James said, already moving toward the entrance. Moments later, I heard voices drifting in from the hallway, familiar and unexpected. "Paul. It's been too long." The warm voice pierced through the air, and I sprang from my chair, heart racing. "Tom." I called out before I could catch myself. My childhood friend, with whom I had shared laughter and dreams that felt so distant now. He stepped into view, accompanied by someone I had not seen in years, a figure that pulled at the very essence of my past. "I heard your mom was unwell. We wanted to check in on her," he said, his expression thoughtful but tinged with concern. "Thanks for coming," I said, trying to sound casual, but my insides felt like a tangled ball of yarn. As Tom approached my mother, I felt James's eyes on me, probing for answers to a silent question we had both begun to feel. Why was Tom here now? As I stood there, the door still ajar behind Tom and another figure, I felt my heart twist painfully. The mere presence of these old friends brought back memories I had buried. From the loose ends of my past sprang a new complexity. My heart thudded violently as I recalled the secrets we had kept, the tangled connections that had led me to the bittersweet moment with Sarah and the cleaner. Before I could voice the unease bubbling within me, the unexpected guest turned to face me, and my breath caught in my throat. "I wanted to let you know," he said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of unspoken words. "There is something you don't know about your mother." A chill raced through me, the storm inside swelling once again. What revelation could he possibly have that would shake the ground beneath me? The tightly woven fabric of my past, the shadows of Sarah lurking in my heart, everything began to unravel into the uncertainty of the truth I was about to confront. I held my breath, feeling the tide of unresolved emotions swell at the edge of the shore, desperate for release. "What do you mean?" I challenged, confused and apprehensive as I steeled myself for whatever was to come. The room seemed to close in around me, the air thick with tension. Tom's expression was somber, as if he had been carrying this secret for far too long. My heart pounded in my chest, an urgent reminder of everything I stood to lose, and yet, I was powerless to turn away. "What is it?" I pressed, my voice edging on desperation. That he hesitated, glancing at my mother before taking a deep breath. "It's about the last few months. Your mom, she's been involved in something she didn't want to tell you." "What do you mean?" I interrupted, my belly twisting with dread. "Please, just let me say this," he urged, holding my gaze. "There have been people coming to the house, helping your mom with, well, things you don't know about. Things I think she wanted to protect you from." I felt the floor drop from beneath me, each word was a stone cast into the still water of my heart, creating ripples of confusion. "What people? Why?" My voice was steadier than I felt, a thin veil over the tempest inside. "They thought she was just struggling with her health, but it's deeper than that," he said quietly. "There are files. I don't know how to explain it. But your mom has been managing something." That he faltered, searching for the right words. "She didn't want you to see, to know how serious it was." "Files? Serious?" I felt nauseated. My mother silenced so much of her life, only to have it dissolve into whispers and shadows as if her very existence were a tapestry unraveling at the seams. "Put a pin in that," James cut in silently, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation spiraling into unknown territory. "Right now, let us focus on Mom." But even he couldn't mask the urgency of the moment. His eyes flickered back to Tom with a mixture of disbelief and caution. Suddenly, a small voice broke through my tumultuous thoughts. "Are you all right, Sarah?" My mother had turned her head, a spark of confusion breaking through her foggy gaze. There it was again, the gentle reminder of her vulnerability, wrapped in the fabrics of love and concern. "Mom, we were just talking about you," I said softly, stepping closer to her, but my mind was still racing. "About how you've been feeling." I hoped to steer the conversation back to safety, away from whatever truth Tom brought with him. Tom watched as I tried to calm my mother, and there was a flicker of wit in his eyes, as though realizing he perhaps had blurted something better left unspoken. "Maybe later," he said, "when she's feeling more like herself." "But how can you know that?" I snapped, my voice sharp with a sudden, aching frustration. "This doesn't sound like later news, Tom. You can't just drop something like this and expect me to sweep it under the rug." James' hand on my arm was a grounding force, giving me just enough stability to focus on my mother's fading light, even as the shadows clawed at the periphery of my thoughts. "Maybe if we focus on her right now, we can help her," he said softly. "Just breathe." He moved closer to my mother, seeking her attention, and she turned towards him. "James," she whispered, searching his face with pitiful clarity. There was love there too, a depth forged by countless shared moments, but it wasn't enough to cast away the shadows of uncertainty that I yearned to keep my emotions in check, but my heart ached with so many questions. My gaze flicked back to Tom, whose face seemed to reflect a tumult of sympathy and fear. "Have you been here all this time?" I asked him, my breath catching as I realized how unmoored I felt. Tom nodded slowly, each affirmation twisting the knife deeper into my already frayed nerves. "I didn't know how to tell you," he said quietly, almost apologetically. "I thought maybe you wouldn't want to deal with it. I thought since you're here, perhaps you could help." "Help with what?" I demanded, unable to mask the crack in my voice. "Mom needs help, but I don't even know what to do." Her frail hand reached out for mine, grounding me in the storm of voices swirling around us. "It's okay, sweetie," she murmured, her comforting cadence forcing me to pause. "You're here now. Could it really be okay?" I looked at her, seeing the disorientation twisting her features, and felt the well of grief shift dangerously close to heartbreak. The kindness I had clung to with the cleaner washed away by the tide of secrets threatening to engulf us. "I need answers," I whispered, my heart a fragile cup overflowed with unresolved questions and a deepening ache. Moving back to Tom, I wiped my cheeks with my sleeve. "You can't just walk in and say there's a problem without telling me what it is." But the words I spoke hung between us, fragile as a single spider's thread, caught in the web of past regrets. It was then that I recognized the true cost of returning home. Old wounds had cracked open, and sharp revelations still loomed just beyond the horizon. As time shifted uneasily in the living room, I caught a glimpse of light dancing across the empty spaces in the room, a fleeting moment of hope amidst the uncertainty. Perhaps together with these friends, we could confront whatever truth awaited us, if only I were brave enough to dismantle the walls of silence. Suddenly, my phone vibrated against the wooden table, pulling my attention from the tense air. The screen lit up a message, urgent and stark. "Sarah needs to see you." The shock of recognition hit me hard, a flurry of emotions cascading through me, a need for resolve, a longing for connection, and the all-consuming curiosity of what was left unspoken. Gripping the phone, I felt both driven and terrified, knowing that the decision to answer this call could alter everything. What if I opened that door, willing myself to step back towards Sarah, only to unearth more tangled threads of love and regret? What choice would I make? Would I forge ahead and drop into another storm, or tread lightly on the truce I had so desperately sought in my mother's embrace? Either way, I knew that whatever I chose would lead me further into the depths of a battle I never understood. And the shadows began to crowd around the edges of my resolve once more, leaving me at a precipice of uncertainty. In the afterglow of that message, reality twisted itself deeper around me like roots encroaching upon an unsuspecting garden. I stood at that tree line between fear and courage, heart racing as ambiguity painted my world in stark, uncertain shades. The message from Sarah pulsed in my hand, and the weight of its implication felt heavier than all the conversations surrounding my mother. "Who is Sarah?" The question rolled off my tongue unbidden like a jagged stone through a still pond, disrupting whatever semblance of calm had dared settle in. Tom's brows furrowed, and he hesitated, aware of the tremors in my voice. She's a friend. From before. But it's not important right now." "No, it is important," I cut in, adrenaline coursing through me, sharp and frantic. "If it involves me, then it's utterly important." "Sarah was part of that group," Tom said reluctantly. The one's coming to help your mom. She's been worried about you. I absorbed his words, a jigsaw puzzle piece falling into place yet leaving an unbearable void in its wake. Why was Sarah worried about me? I barely remembered her face, but the flash of affection in a shared laugh came rushing back as I grasped at the frayed edges of memories I had pacified into a corner of my mind. Beside me, my mother rested against the cushions, her eyes losing their focus again. I wanted nothing more than to draw her back from the depths of fatigue, to shield her from the tremors of turmoil that crackled above us like low thunder. Glancing at her fleeting semblance of peace only caused my throat to tighten with an unbearable mix of love and dread. I can't just sit here, I whispered, my resolve crystallizing amidst the uncertainty. I need to see what she wants. Wait, Sarah, she might not be the best person to talk to right now, James warned softly. We still don't know what your mom is dealing with. We don't know anything. I snapped, feeling raw and exposed under the weight of their caution. I can't keep burying my head in the sand. I can't face what's happening without understanding all the pieces. Before they could argue further, I turned and moved toward the hallway, my footsteps echoing my urgency. I could almost feel Tom's hand tense against my arm, ready to hold me back, but my need propelled me forward. Each step felt consequential, a revolution against silence and unknowing. As I reached the dimly lit corridor and stood at the threshold of the front door, a flicker of doubt surfaced within me. What if stepping outside meant facing something beyond my comprehension? The thought clung to me, urging hesitation, but I shook it off. I'd faced countless storms before in this very house. I was stronger than the fear that kept emerging from the shadows. Swinging the door open, the chilling air rushed past like a whisper filled with possibility. I stepped outside, the evening light washed in hues of silver and blue, cradling the fading warmth of the day. It was more than just a walk to a neighbor's, it felt like leaving behind a shifting foundation crumbling under the weight of unspoken truths. With each hurried step toward Sarah's house, I felt a strange mixture of hope and foreboding. The closeness of shadows from the trees made my heart race even faster, a pulse that sang with each footfall, reminding me that life brims with uncertainty. It could lead me toward understanding or shatter more illusions I clung to like lifelines that I hesitated a moment before knocking sharply on her door, the sound echoing with stark finality. Just then, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye, an unexpected figure emerging from the trees, weaving through the dusk. My breath hitched as I squinted against the fading light. The unmistakable silhouette belonged to someone I hadn't seen in ages, yet their presence felt hauntingly familiar. It was Rachel, the girl I had shared childhood with but who drifted away as unpredictably as the autumn leaves. Her gaze mixed surprise with something darker, as if she was a sentinel, burdened with untold secrets. The unease bubbling within me festered, and before I could process it fully, Rachel was upon me, each step forward a silent encroachment into my chaotic world. You shouldn't be here, Sarah, she warned, her voice barely above a quiver, her eyes darting back toward the shadows. Why are you here? I challenged, every fiber of my being rising to meet the intensity of her gaze. You left without a word. And you've ventured far too close to the truth, she said, her breath fragile against the backdrop of encroaching night. There are things you don't understand, things I wish I could explain. The truth about your mother, it's not what you think. The cliffhanger of her revelation gripped me in a way that set everything inside me ablaze. I stood frozen on the brink, hearts racing, caught between the overwhelming rush of wanting to know and the dread of what lay beneath the surface. Would this tangled web of companionship and loss ultimately set me free or bind me to darkness I was not prepared to face? Rachel, just tell me. What is going on? My voice trembled, the fear spilling over as the night closed in around us, the echoes of uncertainty vibrating in the air. What had I stepped into? And was I ready to confront the consequences of this unforeseen reunion? With Rachel looming before me, the reality of this moment hit harder than I could have imagined. Tension crackled in the air, and I felt the weight of my own desperation pressing against my chest like a hammer. The lingering warmth of the fading day seemed to evaporate, leaving nothing but a chill seeping into my bones. You don't get to just appear after all this time and act like you know what's best, I said, my voice stronger than I felt, trying to mask the quiver of vulnerability woven through my words. I know it feels like that, but she took a tentative step closer, wanting to reach for me but halting mid-motion as if the space between us was a charged boundary. You have to believe me. There are things I couldn't say then, things about your mom. It's why I left. The memories flooded back, carefree summers spent chasing fireflies, secrets shared beneath the stars, and then the slow drifting apart as life took us in different directions. But what shadows lay behind her sudden reappearance? Instinctively, my mind raced to the awful possibilities. Had she known something dark about my mother, something worse than I'd already imagined? Then tell me now. Please. My plea escaped before I could second-guess the urgency behind it. I can't keep living in shadows. I need to understand. A tremor passed through Rachel, trepidation pooling in her eyes. It's complicated. Your mother, she's more than what you see. There are things in her past that have come back to haunt her, and you might be caught in the crossfire. Her words pierced through my defenses, and my heart sank. I could feel the remnants of innocence I had clung to unraveling before me. I wanted to scream, to claw out the truth tangled within her. Instead, I stood before her, transfixed by her admission. My thoughts spiraled wildly. What if my mother had been living a double life, hiding secrets that could tear us apart? Before I could voice my fears, Rachel continued. It's not just about her. If you go digging too deep, if you start asking questions, you could get hurt. There are people watching her, watching you. A suffocating weight settled in my chest, mirrored by the surging urgency of my racing thoughts. People? What do you mean? Rachel glanced back warily towards the looming shadows of the trees, as if they held ominous ears. I shouldn't have come back. I wanted to protect you. I thought, she faltered, glancing down at her trembling hands. I thought it'd be easier to stay away. I didn't know how much danger she was in. Danger? The word fell from my lips like a stone, each syllable embedding itself into the earth of my reality, deepening the fear that gnawed at my insides. You can't just drop these phrases, you need to explain what you mean. I'm trying. But there are forces out there you can't comprehend. Rachel's voice heightened, fraught with an urgency I hadn't expected. This isn't just about illness or your mom needing help. It's deeper, twisted in ways that you don't deserve to bear. A silence enveloped us, heavy with unspoken truths and fractured memories. I could feel the pacing of my heart matching the thunderous beat of uncertainty echoing through the gathering darkness. Rachel's silhouette flickered against the dim light of Sarah's house, a desperate portrait of anxiety etched across her face. What do you know? I pressed, desperate now more than ever. The distance between us seemed insurmountable, but I needed her truth, the truth that could expose the shadows looming over my family. You have to tell me. With a trembling breath, she took another step closer, lowering her voice to a whisper that slid along the edges of the night's embrace. They're coming for her, and they'll come for you next if they find out you're asking questions. This isn't the world you think it is. Please, you have to believe me. A shiver cascaded down my spine as I stood on the precipice of understanding. Who were they? And why had Rachel, once a cherished part of my life, become entangled in this barely formed crisis? The world swirled around me, colors dimming into anxiety-soaked shadows, yet the embers of resolve pushed against the encroaching crypt of despair. I can't just turn back, I whispered, resolute but shaken. I have to protect my mom. Whatever's happening, I'm not running from it anymore. What if it costs you everything? Rachel asked, her voice trembling now, a gleaming reflection of my own fear. Your happiness, your safety, and the life you thought you knew. Are you willing to risk it? In that moment, a crack formed in my armor, exposing the raw nerves of uncertainty beneath. Could I truly face what awaited me? Or would my quest for truth unravel everything I held dear? I have to try, I breathed, a mix of hope and trepidation swirling within me. I want to let fear dictate my path. Suddenly, behind Rachel, the evening darkness shifted, and shadows danced ominously with a life of their own. A distant sound drew our attention, a door slamming further along the street. My heart froze as I locked eyes with Rachel, the weight of her warning settling heavily between us, and then I heard it, a voice emerging from the dark, a voice I would have never expected. "Why are you lurking here, Rachel?" The words sliced through the night like a knife, and I felt my stomach drop as a tall figure stepped into the faint light, their silhouette cast long and ominous against the closing day, an unforeseen player emerging from the shadows, breathing life into my worst fears. "Carter," Rachel gasped, her voice a mixture of revulsion and fear, and at that moment I knew, irrevocably, nothing would ever be the same again. I stood frozen, the weight of Carter's presence anchoring me to the ground as fear threaded through my veins. Memories of carefree summers and midnight whispers faded, replaced with the stark reality of impending danger. The shifting shadows surrounding us danced eerily, painting the world in hues of uncertainty. "Why, Rachel?" Carter's tone was deceptively calm, but I could sense an undercurrent that felt as malicious as it was controlled. "Why do you keep coming back? You know it's best to stay away." Rachel inhaled sharply, her eyes darting from me to him, the unspoken history between them palpable in the charged air. "I had to see you, Carter. There's too much at stake." "Too much at stake," he echoed, a slow disdain filling his voice as he stepped nearer. The breeze carried an uncomfortable chill, and I instinctively took a step back, feeling dangerously out of my depth. "You mean the same old lies? The games you play to mislead, to shield? What do you want from her?" I finally found my voice, the adrenaline surging through me, pushing me toward the edge of a cliff I had never meant to approach. "She's trying to help. Can't you see that?" He turned his gaze onto me, deep, penetrating, with a mocking smile that threatened to peel back my bravado. "Help? This one couldn't care less about helping anyone but herself. I think you're too naive to realize the dangers lurking in the shadows. Stop it." Rachel's voice rang out, fury mingled with desperation. "You don't know what you're talking about. This isn't just a choice for me, it's about Emily's safety." Carter's laughter sliced through the night, a chilling sound that made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. "Emily? Is that what you think? She's already been marked. This isn't just a game, Rachel. You might as well hand out invitations to the flames." I stared at them, bewilderment saturating every thought. Who were they talking about? My mother's name was missing from their discourse, but the implication hung heavily, suffocating in its disclosure. The very idea that I was being pulled deeper into an underground world I hardly understood terrified me. "Why are you acting like this?" I shot back, my voice shaking with a mingling of fear and rage. "What do you want from us?" "From you?" Carter leaned in closer, the grin on his face dripping venom. "I want you to wake up, kid. You think you can go around asking questions without repercussions? You're like a moth to the flame. Rachel may want to protect you, but the truth is more than either of you can bear." Every word he spoke felt like a pinprick to my heart, twisting and pulling, blurring the lines of who I was and who I thought I could become. As fear wove a tight grip around my throat, I could feel Rachel beside me, her presence warm yet fading under the weight of uncertainty. "Let her go, Carter," Rachel demanded, but there was a quiver, an undertone that spoke of both vulnerability and resignation. "This isn't how it has to be. Nobody gets to walk away from this," he replied, his gaze flickering menacingly between me and Rachel, as if searching for some invisible weakness to exploit. "Not you, not Emily, and certainly not Rachel." Pushing against the rising fear enveloping me, I felt an unexpected spark of determination ignite within. "This isn't just about you," I shouted, the words spilling out in a torrent, desperate and fierce. "If you think you can threaten us into silence, you're wrong. I will fight back." Carter raised an eyebrow, amused by my bravado as a cruel smile crept across his face. "Oh, you may try. But in the end, the darkness has a way of finding those it wishes to consume." Just remember, the truth rarely lies on the other side of safety." With that, he turned away, the shadows absorbing him as he slinked back toward the depths of the night, leaving us breathless and stunned. Rachel's breath came in ragged gasps, struggling against the weight of everything left unspoken. I don't know what to do," she muttered, teetering on the edge of an emotional precipice as tears filled her eyes. I reached for her, desperate to find some semblance of solace in her presence, but uncertainty bubbled like lava between us. "Rachel, we can figure this out together." What did he mean about my mom? Her gaze darted to the ground, shadowed and betrayed. "I thought I could keep you safe, keep us safe," but the brokenness in her voice struck me to my core, unraveling the layers of hope I'd been clinging to. "But what?" Rachel hesitated, her voice lowered to a trembling whisper. "There are things I know, things I didn't want to share because they could put you in danger. Your mom has been involved in things you can't even imagine, complicated and dangerous things." "What things?" I pressed, the edges of my sanity fraying under the realization that the truth I sought was much darker than I anticipated. There was a long pause, a wait that seemed to span ages, until she finally met my eyes, a flicker of reluctant resolve shining through her fear. "Emily, there are secrets about your mother's past. Things that involve people like Carter, and worse. She might have been trying to protect you by staying silent, but it could be what gets us hurt in the end." "Protect me? From what? I deserve to know." My heart raced at the thought of the chasm of secrets I might be facing, desperate to seize control of the pieces left in the wake of Carter's warning. "Because your life could change in an instant," Rachel exclaimed, pressing her palms against her temples as if mentally battling the weight of the knowledge she held. "I wanted to tell you everything, but I was terrified. It's why I left and now I'm back, but it feels too late." As panic coursed through me, a sharp resonance of truth settled deep within. How long had I been living in the dark? Was my mother really the person I thought she was? Then suddenly, the earth seemed to shift beneath my feet as Rachel staggered backward, her eyes widening in horror, reflections of dread. "What is it?" I demanded, following her gaze toward a distant figure emerging from the shadows, a familiar one cloaked in darkness. My heart raced at their approach, confusion morphing to terror. "Emily." My mother's voice pierced the night air, a guttural call drenched in panic. "Get inside. Now." But it was too late. Carter's message had seeped into my bones, the realization of being trapped between two worlds crashing down, uncertainty pulsing through every inch of me as I faced the undeniable truth I was no longer just a bystander, I was ensnared in a situation spiraling into calamity, shadows creeping closer, and the darkness was coming for us all. The weight of realization crashed down on me as my mother's urgency hit me like a wave. I turned to Rachel, her eyes wide with genuine fear, a mirror of my own. "We need to run," she urged, her voice barely a whisper, as if saying it too loudly would summon the darkness we felt creeping around us. I had come seeking answers, but the moment had twisted into a situation that spoke of danger lurking behind every shadow. "Emily." My mother called again, her voice strained and laced with desperation. I took a step toward her, the instinct to protect her rising within me, the need to shield my family clashing with the desire to flee from the encroaching unknown. "We can't stay out here," I said, an urgency surging through me like fire, but I glanced back at Rachel. She stood rooted in place, her heartbreak trending toward defeat. "Go," she pleaded, raw desperation emanating from every fiber. "Get inside. Don't look back." Her words carried a weight, a warning wrapped in care, and then everything shifted again. The night air crackled with a new energy, the very darkness thickening as if it were alive and aware. I hesitated, torn between the two worlds pulling at my heart, my past, with Rachel, and my present, faced with secrets lurking in shadows. Just as I prepared to make a choice, I felt a presence charging through the thick, swollen air. I turned back to my mother, who appeared only a few yards away, her face a canvas of concern and something darker, a flicker of fear that should not have been there, not for someone who had always seemed impenetrable. "Mom!" I yelled, desperate to understand, longing to erase the uncertainty gripping my heart. There was no time to waste. I took a step toward her, my heart racing, the pounding within me like a war drum. In that moment, in the fragile intersection of past and present, an unexpected sound sliced through the air, a short, sharp gasp. I turned back to Rachel, who had finally moved, darting forward, her eyes wide. "You don't understand," she shouted, a frantic edge to her voice. But the plea was lost amid another sound emanating from the shadows, heavy footsteps, approaching fast, echoing like thunder amid the silence. I caught the flash of a figure emerging, their outline partially concealed by the darkness, but the moment hardened into clarity. "Get down!" Rachel yelled, leaping towards me. The world spun as I instinctively obeyed, hitting the ground as I felt a rush of menacing energy brush past us like a gust of wind. The thunderous footsteps grew closer, the shadows deepened, each heartbeat amplifying the fear thrumming within me. I glanced up to see my mother's face transform from one of relief to sheer panic. "Run, Emily! Now!" she cried, her voice urgent. Before I could process my next move, Rachel grabbed my arm, pulling me backward into her embrace. There was a fierce sense of determination ignited in her, and I followed her lead, instinct driving us, but as we began to retreat, into the house's reassurances, the figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, one that had haunted my dreams and twisted my memories for far too long. "Stop!" Carter commanded, now nothing but a silhouette against the evening glow, carrying an undetermined weight, sinister and alluring all at once. My heart sank. "Don't comply," Rachel warned, the urgency in her voice pulling at my very core. "He won't let us go. You need to trust me." But my mother stood firm, facing Carter with a defiance that had long vanished from my own heart. "You're not going to hurt my daughter," she said, her voice low yet strong. "Hurt her? I'm here to protect her from you," Carter retorted, the disdain in his voice wrapping around his words like a cloak. "Protect her? From what? You're nothing but a shadow of her past, creeping back in and dragging us into your mess," I shouted, blossoming with self-assurance despite the terror. But the air shifted as if echoing a foreboding answer, the silence held the weight of too many unspoken truths, and fear dipped its claws into me again. Rage brimming from my chest ebbed back into acute terror, a fierce reflection of the pain coursing within. Before any of us could react, Carter surged forward, and I felt Rachel tighten her grip, ready to pull me away. But time slowed, the air thickened, charged with emotion, the veil of night seeming almost sentient as it closed around us. And then it happened, a sudden change, a shuddering uncertainty eclipsing our hopeful moment. My mother took a step towards Carter, voice trembling fiercely. "What do you want with us?" It was a question I hadn't thought to ask. A ghastly curiosity lingered as I felt myself drawn into the exchange. "Why now? Why here?" "Because it's time for the truth," he replied, a tight smile emerging on his lips, darkening the air with an edge that left small goosebumps cascading across my skin. The shadows gathered close, as if listening, waiting for the final act of this twisted play. "Truth?" Rachel echoed incredulously, my heart twisting at her disbelief. "What truth? The kind that holds us hostage? The kind that tears families apart?" Carter laughed, a brief, cruel sound in the silence. "Families? You should have left well enough alone, Rachel. Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than the lies you hold on to." Was this it? The point of no return? My heart raced, uncertainty swirling, but I could feel an anchor waver within me. I glanced at my mother, whose gaze mirrored the gravity of our situation. "Tell me," I pleaded, her strength giving me a fleeting bit of resolve. "Emily," she began carefully, like drawing a line in sand, "there are secrets, things I kept hidden to protect you, but you deserve to know. The past is clawing its way back in a way I never anticipated. You must understand there are layers to this life we lead, and each layer reveals shadows we cannot ignore anymore." Carter leaned in closer, piercing eyes knitting downwards as if weighing the depth of her words. "What a beautiful tragedy," he said with a grateful smirk. But the truth has a way of unraveling even the best intentions. And with that statement, every weight bore down on us at once, a balloon threatening to burst beneath the pressure. The shadows whispered promises of uncertainty and deception, their whispers wrapping around me, urging me to confront whatever lay buried beneath. The truth hung still between us like a lifeline frayed at the edges, asking the impossible, to let go of everything I thought I knew, to plunge into depths untold in the pursuit of clarity. In a moment's pause, my heart hardened with resolve, a steely certainty emerging amidst the chaos, propelling me deeper under the mantle of familial bonds. I will find out the truth, no matter the cost. Whatever secrets we bear, we'll face them together. Carter's grin twisted ominously, lost within darkness, lit only by sparks of mischief and malice. Oh, darling Emily, be careful what you wish for. The truth could very well shatter the lives of everyone involved. And as the shadows tightened and the air thickened with tension, I understood now that the past loomed, powerful and unyielding, ready to consume all in its path. I athered the wits toward the unfolding storm, armed not just with questions but a faith rooted deep, demanding answers and the strength to face what bloomed from my mother's shadows. The room echoed with a silence, caught in the liminal space awaiting revelations, waiting for the descent into the heart of my unfinished story. And at that moment, I knew, whatever the truth was, it held the power to change everything. Together, we will face whatever comes our way, I whispered softly, standing with both Rachel and my mother by my side against the encroaching darkness. We won't let fear dictate our lives any longer. And as the shadows danced, a quiet glow flickered within us, a fragile thread of hope knitting together the pieces of our fractured tapestry, setting our hearts aflame with the courage to navigate the unexpected storm ahead and ready to reclaim what had been lost. In that moment, I understood this was not just my fight, nor a solitary battle against the shadows. This would be a journey, and together, we would illuminate the corners of our tangled fates with the undeniable light of truth. And as our fates entwined, the lingering question remained, would we be prepared for the journey that lay ahead, the unraveling of a past cloaked in darkness? This was our moment, our fight, a transformation that would shake the foundations of our lives and create something anew. No matter what storm we faced, I would not give in to the lurking shadows any longer. There was power in unity, and in understanding, and together, we would forge on. As I stood with both women, my heart surged with an unwavering fierce love, swelling within me like the dawn after a relentless night. Would the truth set us free or shackle us in remorse? Whatever the answer held, I would rise forward into the light, together with all that I loved, no longer afraid of the shadows. For our journeys had just begun, and I realized as we took our first unified step I held the power to embrace our story anew, crafting a narrative filled with love, forgiveness, and resilience alongside those who mattered the most. I breathed deep, ready for whatever the journey might unveil, surrendering to the truth that echoed softly within, the remembrance that love always triumphs in the hearts that choose to weave their destinies together. After all, in the tangled webs of life, it is love that lights the path toward home.